Hello and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, the consultress, here bringing you amazing, connected, and real conversations from the front lines of what the F is new normal. Like, we live in the age of disruption, ladies and gentlemen. So why not have inspired, amazing, and interesting conversations with people who are doing great things in the world and expanding and learning themselves? So without further ado, I welcome my great friend I've known for over a decade, Miss Alice Refauvelet. Hello.
Hey, hi, great pronunciation. Wow, do you speak French? Parlez-vous français?
No, ma'am, I don't, but I grew up with a last name that was very Italian. So I love to pronounce people's names as they're supposed to be said in their native tongue. I don't know if I can get the EAUX, if ever that's on a word, because just
Throw it away. Oh, there you go. Done.
I love it. Training. I love this. So I picked this outfit today because it reminds me of like your spontaneity, your spunkiness, and every time I meet you, whether it's in person or virtual, you always have this joie de vivre that I just love. And I have to thank you because you were the first door that I walked through in the expansion of who it was to become who I was destined to be. You were the person who took my phone call and said, well, what are you looking for? And let me see if I can help you. And like, my life has been forever changed since that conversation, and you've been a part of that. So I am jazzed to tell the whole world who you are and what you're about and what you're up to. You were a single mom and single person and loving it when we met. Now you are a wife and mother. So like, we want to know who is Alice, and one of Alyssa's favorite people. So tell us a little bit about your journey from like sales gal extraordinaire to like wife, mom, etc., and what else you're becoming.
Oh, well, thank you for that fabulous introduction. I'm like a little verklempt over here. That is incredibly sweet.
Oh, I told you we might cry. I'm just saying.
That's true. And I knew from that first conversation that like you and I were gonna be besties. Like there's a vibe. Like there is absolutely a vibe, and it transcends like beautiful jewelry and cute dresses. But yeah, like who am I? So, I am we met through personal development. Like that's not a secret, right? Or it's not now. So I've had the pleasure of working with Jack Canfield, who co-created the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series and has been doing personal development, transformational seminars, trainings, training certifications, things like that for 15 years. And I think a part of me, even prior to working with Jack, is something I've always been on a path of growth and development. And one of the things, I'm just never afraid to really speak my mind. I'm never afraid to look cringy, put myself out there. Like, I'm not really afraid to say the wrong thing, even though it might seem like I am. Like, even before this interview, I'm like, well, wait, what am I going to say? I don't know. And but when it really, like, when it comes down to brass tacks, like, I'm just kind of I pride myself on being kind of a go for it person. And then, it's funny, like, my last name is French, my husband is French, and I sort of, in Canfield world, like manifested that relationship, and it was very unusual. We met on a plane. It's a beautiful love story, all the things. And then, we were married for a long time, and we're struggling to have kids. We finally were able to become parents through adoption, and that becoming a parent, like notwithstanding infertility, the complexities of adoption that most people don't know unless you're in the adoption constellation. I would say just simply becoming a mother has become one of the most interesting things that has happened to me, challenging, etc. There's a long answer to your question. I'm a mother.
Yeah. So what I love is tracking along the journey. For me personally, I became a wife and mother of two within like a 2.5 year time frame. It was nuts.
Wow.
He moved in, we got pregnant, we got married, number two showed up. It was like, okay, hi, I have a new identity to step into, and I have no freaking clue what that means, but I know I have no time to myself. I know that there is so much to do and not enough time. So, how do you make heads and tails of like who you were versus who you needed to become?
It's that is a really interesting question. So how do I make heads or tails of who I were versus who I needed to become, or who all of us as mothers need to become when we become this new person? Because I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. My daughter is 3.5. She was born on a very auspicious day, 12/12/2020, the height of the pandemic. It was a cold winter in Detroit when we were picking her up. Anyways, so yeah, so we're doing this interview in 2024. She's 3.5. And I have to say, I feel like I'm finally figuring it out by acknowledging that I don't know how to do things perfectly. And I know in the past, like that's always kind of been my identity of like, it's not going to be perfect, but I know I can do it. And I've always had this sort of like undercurrent of confidence. And I'm not sure where that confidence came from. I really don't. I think, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's personal development. I'm not sure. But I've always just sort of been able to follow my intuition, trusted my gut on things, like take a big swing. And if it's a miss, like I remember even when I was younger in my early 20s, I decided to move to Florida on a whim with the company I was working for. And I moved there. And when I got there, it was hard. I didn't know anybody. And so then some friends offered me a job within the same company up in Virginia. And I was like, yes, I took the job, signed the paperwork, and then I changed my mind and I didn't go. And so, because my intuition said stay. And so I'm not afraid of like making big decisions and then whatever. Parenthood is so different. And like that sort of, radical trust of myself has really paid off over the years. And then with parenthood, it's like I have some intuition about things, and other things, like I just don't know what to do. Like I am just like waiting for the guidance, and I'm like, it's not there. And I'm like, what do people do? Like, this is so weird. And so truthfully, when we hit the toddler stage, it really kind of rocked me a lot. And I was like, I really had to dig into my training as someone who has been working for Jack Canfield, for 15 years, and somebody who does like, push people to, figure out situations that they aren't sure how to figure out, and hire people. I have a therapist now for the first time. I've had therapy kind of here and there, but never like a therapist. Like I have my therapist, and talking with other moms about real stuff, and saying, she had a meltdown. I didn't know what to do. And I feel terrible because I just let her cry,
Oh my
you
God.
know, just,
That stuff as a mom, like when we're doing things that we don't know how to do, that we've never encountered as the adult who's supposed to have it all figured out, like supposed to in very loose air quotes. But I had a similar experience when we were camping and we forgot my daughter's like favorite blanket. And she woke up with night terrors, screaming uncontrollably. Thank God we were only an hour and a half drive home, because that's what I did at 3:30 in the
you went
morning.
and got it.
IDFK, what the hell to do right now? So we're going home, and then we'll take a nap in the air conditioning and go back to the tent. Like, you have to make snap decisions where you're like, I don't know that this is the perfect thing. There's probably going to be some drama and trauma associated with this event, but you can't stop that stuff from happening. You just have to like ride with it and like show up as best you can with what you have in that moment. And like, honestly, motherhood was very humbling for me to know that like when you're taking those steps and you think you know what to do, or at least your programming is driving you with what you're going to do, you're also at the same time watching yourself make these decisions and then wondering if they're the right ones, right? There's like this constant, I would call it like flip flop of like, I know what to do. No, I don't, but I'm doing this. And is it the right thing? And so it feels very unsettling to not know, but getting comfortable with like, I need to ask some people maybe who've been there. And like for me, that like community of other mothers, like forget the books because those things drove me out of my mind and made me more terrified. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the community of moms, like that's what helped me find like sure footing and support, because nobody does it alone.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think finding the right vibe of mom group also,
Oh yeah.
or like a diverse group, because I have noticed too, like I think I always aspired to be this, 'cause I have health challenges. I have to eat very healthy foods and, I have celiac disease and all these things. And by, just by being forced, like I lead a very healthy diet. I'm going to be one of those moms that cooks all the meals, and I'm like, no, I'm also a businesswoman who has to work. Anyway, it's a very wild experience, and I think also for me, one thing I didn't realize, and I think it's because like I am so grateful that I became a mother in my 40s. However, I envy sometimes the younger moms that in their 40s, they're now sort of coming into their own. So I think there's also when you're aging, when I was 30 and in my 30s, that's a new level of growth, a new level of comfort with yourself. And in your 40s, it's even deeper. And so for me, it's like, oh, wow, wait, I have had this great relationship with myself. And I've had all of these, like I was very, I was not lacking on the self-care, let's just say, for the past decade. Okay. And then I have this person who I dreamed of and wished for, and, like is in now in my life. And I love this person more than anything on this planet, like with every fiber of every being of every life I've ever lived, whatever. But I am like, go to sleep so I can shut my mind down. Like, it's like
Yep.
the weirdest thing. So sometimes I have this like envy of like people who sort of like not got it over with, but like people who now have a little bit more time when their children are adults, but then we have to enjoy the journey and all these things. And I think at the end of the day, moms in particular, I know dads have their own struggle, but listen, I'm a mom. I'm with my peeps. So like I think moms do put a little bit more guilt on themselves than other parents. I think moms overthink things. I think moms are the ones that are scrolling on Instagram for solutions to problems when in the past they might have been scrolling for a cute something that was going to fulfill something or something that was going to be for them. And I think sometimes dads can shut off, and
Oh,
send funny memes, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out why she cried last night by looking at positive parenting. But, it's just so funny and silly at the same time. So I think one thing I'm learning is that not to take everything so seriously. Um,
yes.
you know,
Huge. So freaking huge. Thank God my husband's like the funniest man I've ever met, because like, and he can compartmentalize and be like, look, man, you're not going to have all the answers. Just like stop worrying about it. And I'm like, but I get to plagues my uterus. Like I can't stop thinking about it. It's in my body. Like I feel the fear from like my freaking butt to my brain,
uh-huh.
and figuring out what, like how to untangle that that way of being, and figure out how to separate some of it out. It's like making taffy out of marshmallows. You ever did that where
Mhm.
like you split a marshmallow, you stick it together, you break it another way, and then all of a sudden after a while you have this gooey stuff in the middle and you're like, wow, looks like a smile, look at, check me out, and then you get stuck in your hair. Like that's kind of what like figuring out motherhood is. So
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that analogy, other than the fact that like having a partner that can approach problems differently, or look at it from a more objective point of view, like that's been really valuable to me in my parenting, in my professional life, and like lighten up a little, because like humans are durable. Yeah, babies don't come with a manual, but also they're tough as nails,
Mhm.
so like us worrying about like there was this one Friends episode where Monica and Chandler were talking about like that they're gonna have a kid, and oh my god, but I don't want to screw them up. And Chandler says to her, Monica, oh, don't worry, hon. We're gonna give our kid our own brand of messed up. Like
Yeah.
that phrase gave me so much freedom, because I was like, yeah, nobody gets out of childhood unscathed, even if you had the best childhood, right? So that gave me a measure of like, oh, okay, I can like relax a little bit, because we're gonna be able to laugh about this later. Like
That's
bad
I think it's so important.
experience
And this,
is a good
you
story.
know what's interesting? You just made me think of something. So, like when I was talking about finding the mom group that you align with, I think this applies to everything because actually started this like little mini course called Confidence of a Queen prior to having my beautiful daughter Desiree. And one of the things I think that is so important for people is to really curate what goes in. So, like, curate the expectations that you're putting on yourself. And for me, it really comes down to social media because I do love Instagram. I don't really vibe with Facebook, but I love Instagram. I get a lot of ideas for whether it's decorating or plants or, DIY, crochet, parenting. And so, what I had to do is go and unfollow any accounts that were not serving me. And I think that's really healthy. And so you have such a great partner that's very grounding for you. Some people, I do too. Your husband and my husband would have a blast. They're both like, memes are their love language, memes and, reels. At least that's my husband's love language. And I think also just not comparing yourself and finding whether it's community, why I keep saying like, let's like on your Instagram, like sometimes the only community I have for the day is because I'm working from, let's say 7 to 5, family time. And then I get like 15 minutes before I fall asleep. And yes, of course, we're supposed to be meditating and all the things, but like, I want my, fun time or whatever. And so what really like gets me is I follow these very tongue-in-cheek, like satirical moms, that just kind of poke fun. Like there's this one mom, I don't remember the handle, or else I call it out. It's like, you're the winner of 3 scoops of, back seat trash. And so just like, the area under the car seat,
Yeah.
it just there's just like books, a shoe, old broken toys. And then she had the scooper. It's just like, here you go. La, la, la. And I'm like, thank you for showing stuff like that, and not the people who like try to make things perfect. But what I'll say, I think someone said this to me. I don't remember what it's just anytime. I think parents, especially moms, we're always trying to do our best, obviously. And we're always trying to do, in most cases, some people are trying to live up to maybe a perfect childhood that they had or something. But I would say in most cases, we're trying to offer our children something better than we had. And in doing so it's like generational trauma, let's say. Like we're healing things, we're parenting differently, we're going to show up where maybe we didn't feel shown up for. Yet, of course, we're causing new generational trauma for them to untangle later. And that's not my problem. It's really just not.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 things come to mind. It's like, yes, everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. And like, there's always something we would go back and change. Not that we have regrets per se, but there was always something we're like, this is an area for growth and development. Like that's how the human brain is wired. We are wired to see anomalies, and then we see them and we say, aha, okay, I'm going to do this better. Or, for me growing up is, looking at life through the lens of financial as success. I had to unwire that for myself because I kept like jamming my head against financial services, banking, wealth management. And I was like, why do I not feel fulfilled? Oh, all right. Because I have to redefine this word. I have to redefine how success looks in all of life. And maybe financial is like the lagging indicator. Oh, my economics degree is coming in handy, right? So like the lagging indicator is the finance. Like the money shows up when you've been enough value in the world, right? So I want to just pause and like hold that for a minute, that everybody's on this journey, and nobody has a clue what changing and innovating is going, like what all the implications and all the results are ever going to be. So you just have to chill and say like, I see room for improvement, I'm going to go for it, like you said. And the other thing is trusting that intuition is like, we might not have all the answers, we don't have it figured out up here, we don't need the courses or the books, but trusting that when God, source, universe, whatever presents us with a problem that we also have contained in us, because we can see and define the problem, the seed for the solution too. Like that is the gift of being human. That is the gift of being creative. That like the last 100 or so years of like industrial age thinking has kind of programmed out of us that we're supposed to have the manual, do the work, the SOP, and then that is our role. We are a piece of the machine. Bullshit, because we need to innovate and change things that we see and bring new things to light. So I know in the green room before this, we were talking about like your journey with adoption
Mhm.
and how, you're like, you don't know until you're in it how like rigorous or how grueling the process can be, or what all it is that you have to consider. And then, having gone through it, looking back, there were things that you're like, wait, I think there's room for improvement here. Can you speak to any of that for me right now?
Yeah, there was something that you said. I want to find it. Um, that was, oh, the reason why, so your innovation. And that's the reason why in the beginning of this conversation, you're like, the books, the handbooks, they ain't working for me. And it's the same for me. And so that is one thing when you just made me, I just had a sort of an aha moment myself of like following my intuition used to be very strong. I have kids. I'm like, that's what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Yet the same for me. Like when I would read something that was like mile markers, milestones or whatever, I will have a deep sense of knowing of like whether this is a problem or not. And so I think that is so important for people to know in usually like your gut is telling you the right thing. I've never heard of anyone who followed their gut that regretted it. Um, Adoption. This can be a long conversation. So help me hone in. What do we want to know there?
Is there, what, going through the experience of it, one or two things that you discovered that you would want to innovate, change, or let other people know about to
Oh
be
yeah,
prepared, and
absolutely.
kind of, just the high flying bullet points of that
Yeah,
transition.
well, full disclaimer, I am now working with my adoption agency, which is a nonprofit, really making some radical change in the adoption space. And that is because, I think a lot of people in America really feel like there are just these babies that need to be saved. And that's actually generally not true. So, like, the vast majority of private domestic adoptions, when you adopt a baby, are situations where it's just the best choice that that woman could make at the time. And so, one of the ways that we can mitigate the trauma that's caused to a birth mother and to this child that was very much desired by their birth mother, and is also desired by you. One of the ways that we can mitigate some of that trauma and heal some of those feelings is by having an open adoption. And an open adoption is oftentimes a very scary thing for adoptive parents because even myself, when we were going through adoption, I was like, oh, I really hope, this is like secret, like a deep like admission here, secret posted on the internet. When we were adopting, we didn't know any better. We're like, oh, I just really hope there's, some young person that maybe is not ready to have a kid and they just want to kind of like, have this child and just go on about their life. But if you really stop to think about it, like these are human beings, like a pregnant person, with their, I mean, like with their child as they're like choosing to have this child, bring them into the world, and then create an adoption plan. Like there's a deep love there. That's not so okay. And so for me, if anyone is ever considering adoption, open adoption, and a desire for not wanting to have an open adoption with your child's birth family stems from fear. It just stems from fear. Fear that maybe your child is going to love them more than you. Fear that maybe, you know, I don't know what that was where my fear was coming from. I'm like, what if my daughter loves her birth family more than me? And then when like I was going through the process and I was able to connect with birth moms and talk to people who have had open adoptions, that's when I had this like crushing, crashing wave of realization that love is not finite. And the more love that I can bring into my child's life, the more love. I didn't even account for the love that I was going to have for this family and it's a family. Like my daughter's birth parents, there are two of them, dad, mom in the picture. There are families on both sides that we are getting to know. And it is one of the most beautiful, magical things on the planet. And it's the best thing for Desiree, my daughter. She knows where she came from. She loves her family. And now she doesn't have to ever wonder, when she's 18 to go ask questions and find things out. So,
Wow, lady. This is a world that I don't know. I did go through the growing belly and the pain of birth, but I cannot imagine I mean, I can now imagine that going through all of that and then doing what's right and what's best can be really painful
Mhm.
for the birthing mom. And so,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, and it doesn't cross your mind until you're inside of the, universe of doing it. You're like, well, does it have to be that way? And why don't people understand that there is a wider choice? It's like vanilla or chocolate. Do you want ice cream? Take me to Baskin and Robbins and ask me that question. I'm
Mhm.
waiting, black cherry all day. But like you need to know that there's other ways of doing it that aren't the assumed black and white. Like I talk about this in business where people get into business and they assume they've got a couple steps to do, like a website, and they need to market, and all of a sudden they're in business. But there's this whole other world of thinking through what value are you providing? Who are you going to become? That rarely gets addressed until you're in motion, until you're like looking at the thing and kind of opening up the universe and taking that bird's eye view and going, wow, there's a lot more here than I realized. So, for you to be an advocate for the education of people understanding that there's so much more love and beauty that can come from a situation that in our minds we assume is we're going to benefit from something unfortunate. If that's the assumption and that continues through a child's entire life, yeah, it's no wonder they go searching, right? But, before we wrap up here, what can you say about like the work that you're doing together? Because, I have friends who've adopted kids a few times over, and I have friends who've never even thought about adoption, who have friends and they don't know how to talk to them. So, where can people go to find more information or kind of train up on this like loving way to do blending families?
Yeah, so I would love, so the organization that I'm working with right now is called Just Choice. Our website is justchoice.org. If you have any interest in learning how to, and it's just interesting, since you said people can make different choices. So that's why our organization is called Just Choice, Justice in Choice. So check us out, justchoice.org. You can find me on my LinkedIn, just search for my name, Alice. Refauvelet.
Yeah. So you can see it there underneath her name, Refauvelet. She is an amazing human, an amazing mom, and I'm so lucky to have the ability to have candid conversations with you, learn together, grow together, because there's the saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. And if we're only using the assumptions we ever started with, there's no room for growth and there's no room for love and expansion to enter the picture if we only use what is here in our judgments and assumptions. So thank you for coming here with me and being vulnerable and an open book. We didn't quite get to tears, but I have a feeling there's a big hug and tears after this. Uh, so find Alice on LinkedIn. If you are a mom or you're friends with someone who's thinking about adoption, please share this episode, share this video, because there's so much more to it than the transaction that we assume that it is. And thank you for educating me. Alice, it has been an absolute pleasure to rise and shine with you. So for anybody else listening, please drop, everybody else listening, who am I saying? What am I saying? You're listening, you're here. Drop a comment, give us a like, subscribe, but let us know what you found most valuable, because this conversation needs to expand. So we broadcast here every single Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So don't miss another episode. Click subscribe, let us know what you need, and then get in touch. We are here to serve, and, together we're better. Nothing's going back to normal. What gets to be new, it gets to be under review and grown and expanded. So high five, let's do that together. See you next time, friends. Same bat time, same bat channel.